Jinnah of Pakistan by Stanley Wolpert. Chapter 10, London, 1930 to 1933. Jinnah returned home by early September. The new passport he had taken out in 1931 gave England, not India, as his place of residence. Fatma was waiting in Hampstead and Dina was safely enrolled in her private boarding school nearby. Secretary of State Wedgwood Ben invited Jinnah to sit on the Federal Structure Committee at the second roundtable conference that started on September 7, 1931, but his role was much diminished from what it had been the previous year. All eyes were on Gandhi in 1931, for his was the voice of Congress on every committee as well as at the plenary sessions where he spoke. The Federal Structure Committee met from September 7th to 27th under Lord Sankey's chairmanship. The next day, the Minorities Committee was reconvened by Ramsay MacDonald, with Gandhi joining its ranks. It met till November 18th, 10 days after which the entire conference gathered again in St. James's Palace in plenary session. The second roundtable conference achieved no greater unity than the first had done, for all its strenuous, wordy labor and well-meaning leaders, Sankey, Sapru, Gandhi, Ambedkar, the leader of the Untouchables, and Jayakar. The ranks of the Muslim delegation remained firm behind the line of their as yet unmet demands of the previous year. Though Lord Sankey reported that his committee had concluded its lengthy deliberations with the hope that an all-India federation was possible, Jinnah spoke for the entire Muslim deputation when he insisted, "I am still of the opinion that the achievement and completion of the scheme of All India Federation must, with the best will in the world, take many years. No outstanding vital ingredient of the scheme has yet been agreed upon." Sir Shah Nawaz Bhutto, one of Sindh's wealthiest landowners and the father of Pakistan's future Prime Minister, voiced much the same feeling, noting before Ramsay MacDonald's concluding statement, "The conference has come to an end without achieving any tangible result." Mr. G.D. Birla, one of India's wealthiest mill owners and Congress supporters, represented the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry at this second conference and frankly stated, "We are not at all satisfied with what has taken place." Birla's critique of the Indian budget and financial situation was as brilliantly scathing as any made to the face of a British cabinet minister. Birla suggested a number of ways in which to reduce the British mortgage to 42 or 50% of India's annual budget, but then voiced the strongest attack of the conference against constitutional safeguards, warning, "You should not ignore the Indian investor." The Indian investor, Birla argued himself, one of their leaders, detests these safeguards because these safeguards which are proposed are not in his interest. They are in the interest of the city financiers. Gandhi was last to address the conference, starting his speech after midnight on December 1st, 1931. "All the other parties at this meeting represent sectional interests," argued the Mahatma. "Congress alone claims to represent the whole India, all interests. It is no communal organization. It is a determined enemy of communalism in any shape or form. And yet here I see that the Congress is treated as one of the parties. I wish I could convince all the British public men, the British ministers, that the Congress is capable of delivering the goods. The Congress is the only all-India-wide national organization bereft of any communal basis. Believe me that Musalman problem exists here, and I repeat that without the problem of minorities being solved, there is no Swaraj for India. There is no federation for India. But I do despair of some day or other finding a real and living solution in connection with the minorities problem. I repeat that so long as the wedge in the shape of foreign rule divides community from community and class from class, there will be no real living solution. There will be no living friendship between these communities. Were Hindus and Muslims and Sikhs always at war with one another when there was no British rule? When there was no English face seen there? This quarrel is not old. Quarrel is coeval with this acute shame. I dare to say it is coeval with the British advent. The Aga Khan himself did not feel confident about the true strength of the Muslim majority either in Bengal or in the Punjab, since he had earlier written to Jinnah in view of the fact that Muslim women are under parda and many are not prepared to go to the poll, and also the economic indebtedness of Muslim to Hindus. The mere fact of giving them a majority on the register does not get rid of the trouble. Jinnah felt even more gloomy about the second conference and its prospects as he told an old journalist friend, Durga Das, at lunch in Simpsons. What can you expect from a jamboree of this kind? The British will only make an exhibition of our differences. He anticipated that nothing would come of Gandhi's appearance on the scene, predicting that the British will make a fool of him and he will make a fool of them, and asking where is the Congress claim that it represents the Muslims as well. I expect nothing to come out of this conference. The discussions during the past 2 months have been of value in showing us more precisely the problems we have to solve, concluded Prime Minister MacDonald in his closing remarks. And as positive and immediate steps, MacDonald announced his government's decision to bring the Northwest Frontier Province into full governor's status and to create a new, equally advanced province of Sindh to direct concessions to Muslim demands that help convince the Muslim delegation of the wisdom of its political strategy to date. Though the Northwest Frontier, under the leadership of Frontier Gandhi, Abdul Ghaffar Khan, would align itself with Congress rather than the Muslim League in future elections. In moving his vote of thanks to the Prime Minister on behalf of the conference, Gandhi warned that it was somewhat likely that, so far as I am concerned, we have come to the parting of the ways, and indeed, soon after reaching Indian soil, he would be arrested again in Bombay on Wellington's order. Jinnah, on the other hand, urged Britain's government to give provincial autonomy without delay simultaneously with the responsibility at the centre in British India, recognizing, as he did, the total impossibility of getting the princes to agree to any federal scheme. He further advised his British friends, as MacDonald intimated, to decide the communal question provisionally. I say this because if the British government settle the communal question and make a substantial advance toward real responsibility at the centre in British India, both Hindus and Mohammedans will realize the earnestness on the part of the government, and the bulk of the people will accept their decision. The stage was thus set for the next decade of political tug-of-war, with Jinnah's constitutional formula proving in part prophetic in anticipating British intentions, while Gandhi and his side braced themselves for longer incarcerations and stiffer revolutionary resistance. The next few years in London would be the quietest, least political years of Jinnah's adult life. His daily routine rarely altered. Breakfast at 9, then off to the chambers in the city. He had an English chauffeur, Bradbury, who drove the Bentley. He quickly established a reputation for excellence before the Privy Council, yet in spite of this, he was never invited to serve as a judge on it, as Jayakar would later be. Justice Kliga reported that Lai did not succeed in his practice in the Privy Council as he had expected, which chastened Jinnah, predisposing him to return to India in 1934. Durga Das confirmed this, noting that during their excellent meal at Simpson's, Jinnah confessed he was not enamored of his legal practice in London, which he coveted professionally was a seat on the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, or he might try to enter Parliament. The truth, in fact, seems to be that he did succeed as well as any lawyer could, but that simply was not enough to keep him occupied. Parliament, of course, was his goal, yet every constituency remained close to him. The Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, had it been offered, would probably have proved as much of a bore as did appealing to its tribunal. In less than a year, he must have paced off every inch of Hampstead Heath and had probably eaten in every decent restaurant in London. Even if the theatre continued to lure him to the West End and old friends to Oxford and Cambridge, there was really nothing to tax his talents, no challenge left to his life, no summits to win, no opponents worthy of his genius to vanquish. At 55, he appeared to have achieved a routine resembling the perfect tranquility of the grave. Dina was his sole comfort, but Dina was away at school most of the time and home only for brief holidays. She was a dark-eyed beauty, lithe and winsome. She had her mother's smile and was pert or petulant as only an adored, pampered daughter could be to her doting father. He had 2 dogs, one formidable black Doberman and the other a white West Highland Terrier. And there was always Fatima, of course, but she was much too somber, too busy worrying ever, guarding him from intruders and especially women. She hated any woman he ever liked, Begum Liaquat Ali Khan recalled. Oh, how she hated Ruthie. I think she must have been jealous of us all. We used to call her the Wicked Witch. In November of 1932, Jinnah read H.C. Armstrong's Life of Kemal Ataturk, Grey Wolf, and seemed to have found his own reflection in the story of Turkey's great modernist leader. It was all he talked about for a while at home, even to Dina, who nicknamed him Grey Wolf. Being only 13, her way of cajolingly pestering him to take her to High Road to see Punch and Judy, who surfaced in Hampstead every Sunday, was, "Come on, Grey Wolf, take me to the pantomime. After all, I am on my holidays." There were other distractions as well, yet all too few and far between. Begum Shahnawaz returned to London to help transform the recommendations of the first 2 conferences into a bill for Parliament, the sort of job Jinnah was best equipped to carry out. Yet, he was not even invited to attend the 3rd Roundtable Conference or to meet with the Parliament's Joint Select Committee, which the 2nd Marquess of Linlithgow, 1887 to 1952, chaired. The Agha Khan and Zafarullah Khan, Salmi and Jayakar, Petro and Ambedkar were there, cheek by jowl, with Harding and Irwin, the Lord Chancellor and the Archbishop of Canterbury. However, there was no Jinnah, no Gandhi, no Nehru. Jawaharlal had been arrested again in Allahabad before Gandhi reached Bombay, and by mid-January 1932, both heads of Congress were left to languish between British bars. Jinnah's London retreat could hardly be compared to the harsh enforced isolation of a prison cell, yet he must have felt almost as lonely and cut off at times in Hempsfield. Government's communal decision was presented to the Parliament in August of 1932, in keeping with the Prime Minister's promise at the end of the Second Roundtable Conference and in response to the pressure from Wellington urging swift action to placate India's Muslims. That communal award assured Muslims some 51% of the legislative seats in the Punjab and just under 50% in Bengal, where special interest Europeans would hold the balance of power, retaining separate electorates and Muslim representation in excess of total population proportions in all Hindu majority provinces. The Third Roundtable Conference ended on Christmas Eve 1932 with Secretary of State Sir Samuel Hoare 1880 to 1950 announcing that Muslims would be assured full 33.3% representation they demanded at the All India Federal Centre and that Orissa as well as Sindh would become separate new provinces of British India. In Cambridge, a pamphlet was published that year, written by a 35-year-old Muslim student from the Punjab, Chaudhry Rahmat Ali, 1897 to 1951. Now or Never was the title. It was subtitled, Are We to Live or Perish Forever? The shadowy Rahmat Ali identified himself as the founder of the Pakistan National Movement and named 3 associates, also Cambridge students, Muhammad Aslam Khan, Sheikh Muhammad Sadiq and Inayatullah Khan, who apparently contributed to the contents of this pamphlet, which first publicized the name Pakistan. Rahmat Ali's proposed solution of the great Hindu-Muslim problem was written on behalf of the 30 million Muslims of Pakistan who live in the 5 northern units of India, Punjab, NWFP, the Afghan province, Kashmir, Sindh and Balochistan, embodying their inexorable demand for the recognition of their separate national status as distinct from the rest of India. While this early 1933 demand clearly derived inspiration, at least in part, from Iqbal's Allahabad address of December 1930. The Cambridge founders of this Pakistan national movement insisted that their plan was basically different from the suggestion put forward by Dr. Sir Muhammad Iqbal, whose Northwest unit was to have remained within an all India federation by insisting these provinces should have a separate federation of their own. There can be no peace and tranquility in the land if we, the Muslims, are duped into a Hindu-dominated federation where we cannot be the masters of our own destiny and captains of our own souls. Soon after, the Pakistan pamphlet was printed, testimony by several conservative British officials before Parliament's Joint Committee on Proposed Constitutional Reforms, echoed that as yet obscure demand. Sir Michael Odewire, 1864 to 1940, who ruled the Punjab during the Jallianwala Bagh massacre and its martial law aftermath, testified before the committee in mid-June, arguing against an all-India federation since, if the federal government with a Hindu majority endeavors to force its will on provinces with a Muslim majority, what is to prevent a breakaway of the Punjab, Sindh, Balochistan and the NWF as already foreshadowed and they are possibly forming a Muslim federation of their own? Sir Michael did not explain where that Muslim federation was foreshadowed, but he appears to have received one of Rahmat Ali's pamphlets, or could he perhaps have helped inspire it? Sir Reginald Cradock, 1868 to 1937, former Home Member of the Government of India, a Conservative Member of the Parliament from 1931, appointed to Linlithgow's Joint Committee on Indian Constitutional Reforms, also knew about the Pakistan idea by August 1st, 1933, when he asked Abdullah Yusuf Ali of the Northwest Frontier Province whether there is a scheme for federation of provinces under the name of Pakistan. Yusuf Ali's answer was, as far as I know, it is only a student's scheme. No responsible people have put it forward. Sir Reginald was more sanguine about its prospects, however, stating, "They have not so far, but you advance very quickly in India, and it may be when those students grow up, it will be put forward. That scheme must be in the minds of the people anyhow." Mr. Zafarullah Khan, 1893 to 1981, the previous year's president of the League, destined to become Pakistan's foreign minister, had never heard of the word or movement. Mr. Isaac Foot, a Liberal member of Parliament who, unlike Craddock, had no prior India experience, asked, "What is Pakistan?" To this, Yusuf Ali, who served as spokesman for the joint five-member Muslim delegation of the Muslim League and the All India Muslim Conference to the Parliamentary Committee, replied, "So far as we have considered it miracle and impracticable. It means the federation of certain provinces, yet Craddock was still not willing to drop this chimerical subject, pressing on with, "I have received communications about the proposal of forming a federation of certain Muslim states under the name of Pakistan." Another member of the Muslim deputation, Dr. Khalifa Shujauddin, insisted, "Perhaps it will be enough to say that no such scheme has been considered by any representative gentleman or association so far. If Jinnah knew about Pakistan's scheme at this date, there was no indication in his papers of such knowledge or of any personal interest expressed in it. Nor would he agree to meet with Rahmat Ali the following year, despite several attempts by the latter to discuss his ideas with Jinnah in London. Nor was Jinnah willing as yet to accept the Muslim League's invitation to return to India to preside over its annual deliberations in Delhi in April of 1933. "I cannot return to India before December next," he replied to that telegraphic invitation from Abdul Mateen Chaudhary in March. "Besides, I don't see what I can do there at present. You very rightly suggested that I should enter the assembly. But is there much hope in doing anything there? There are questions which still make me feel that there is no room for my services in India. Yet, I am sorry to repeat, but there is no chance of doing anything to save India till the Hindus realize the true position. The Hindus are being fooled. By chance any scheme goes through, it will be worse than what is at present. Thank you for your suggestion that I should try and stand for election, as Sir Ibrahim is going to resign. Well, I can't say till I come to India, as I am due in December, at any rate for a few months." The scheduled December visit was for business, yet the prospect of re-election to the assembly clearly tempted him. It was not Parliament, though one day soon it might almost be. Perhaps he was simply getting bored with Hampstead. Liaquat Ali Khan and his beautiful Begum arrived that summer to add their voices to those seeking to lure Jinnah home. They had come to London for their honeymoon and met Jinnah at a reception where he invited them to dinner in Hampstead. "You must come back," Liaquat urged. "The people need you. You alone can put a new life into the League and save it." Begum Liaquat, much like Begum Shahnawaz, appealed to him with the same vital glowing beauty, idealistic enthusiasm, and hero worship that Ruthie had displayed during their exciting early years of marriage. His heart's fire, his ambition, began to burn again with the revitalized brilliance of the twilight glow of 57 years. Liaquat's imprecations, offers of assistance and flattery were, of course, an added factor, for Jinnah always responded to appeals aimed at his ego, his unique capacity to save the situation. In London, the only round table left to him was one at which he and Fatima dined alone, rarely speaking to one another and never smiling. Most evenings, except in those scarce interludes when a beautiful Begum appeared, the house lights at Hampstead Heath Road remained dim. And what great actor, after all, would not find the prospect of an eagerly awaiting vast audience tempting enough to lure him back home, at least for part of each year?